couple of us on remotely and everyone else present in the room besides Mr. Schmidt, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. We only have one item for our committee of the whole, and it's just discussion. So knowing that we had to have, or knowing that we'll have a larger discussion on this topic, we felt it would just be easier for conversation to be able to have an open discussion where if we needed anyone from Moss to comment or Mark to comment or whomever, that we could answer questions people may have. We don't have any pre-canned presentation. If there's anyone from the public that, or from the group out here that wants to speak at any time, we can probably, take those comments. Anything, though, that we won't ultimately take any action in this meeting. Any action that would happen during the council meeting, during that resolution section that pertained to the budget. So I trust that you all have had an opportunity to review the packet. We wanted just to work to provide you all with some updated information based on the feedback that we received during our council meeting. Mark, I'm going to come to you in a second just so that you can set the stage for us on the latest hypothetical financing plan. And then I think just in the interest of time, I'd rather just not talk at you all and just hear from you all. So Mark, can you set the stage for us just on the hypothetical financing plan from November 8th, and then we'll go from there?
Sure can. On the sent out, there is a summary of it on
Mark,
sheet form.
Mark, why don't you
Yes.
turn off your camera, because you're breaking up a decent amount. Here we go. Let's try that. Well,
Okay, so as a
I'll stop talking. You
is
go.
it working now? Okay. That page has the total estimated cost of approximately 15 point. In an earlier packet, I provided to you a one-page or included some pre-construction, construction, furnishings, fixtures, other owners' costs, that package of that 15.4 million. Costs, interest costs, as well as an 8% construction fund, $1,000. Of the sources that we have available to, you have the sheet.
Mark, I'm going to stop you. You're breaking up a lot. I'm going to send you the call in, and I think it might be better just to call versus attend that way. So when you connect, do you see this happening? It's not letting me unmute this microphone. Dana, can you hear me? Or Bob, can anyone hear us remotely? Okay. Well, how about this? Thank you. I just saw it myself. There we go.
Borrow 12.5 million. If we were to borrow 13.5.
Mark, hold on. Mark,
in each of those columns.
Mark, we totally lost you for a minute there. Probably on my fault, but it sounds like everyone remotely probably could still hear you, but we couldn't hear you in the room.
So are we at the total of the column? What is included?
I think if you're still explaining the hypothetical financing plan, we lost you somewhere at the beginning of that.
Okay. And me calling in instead.
Well, now you're coming through pretty good.
All right, we'll try again. The total $15.4 million. Just to be clear, that number includes 12,500,000, which is a mid-range. It has subtracted out of that 12,500,000 some value engineering, includes the staff vehicle garage, the basement level, a couple of other smaller in relative, but it does include the storage building. It does include a training tower. 15.368 million is inclusive of those items that have construction contingency. Included in the $1 that you don't see on that sheet is an allowance for some that we know that we're going to have to do. A total of about $370,000 once built within that number. If it exceeds that, then that's part of what the new construction. We don't assume that there will be a contingency fund. That should be a savings to us when the project is complete. We've got listed there equal about 14 million, so there's a shortfall. As a group, there was a feeling the easy one to remove out of the project without knowing what the rest. And so each of the other four columns includes a subtraction, $350,000 storage building, then providing to you if we were to borrow 12.5, 13.5, 14, or in each of those scenarios, again, the storage building has been removed. Has then showing you that if we dollars and not do the storage building, we're still short 1,000. And even if we were to pull out the 800,000 that's included the tower, we're still going to be shy, and that's if we are assuming correctly that a midpoint is our cost of to envision at this point what those numbers would be. Moving to the million, we're almost right at the break even there. The contingency again of 990 stays in place. Loans beyond that contingency of 990. The 14 million attitude there to say if there are overage in the, which is the piece that we don't know, then this provides to us the ability from there have about 500,000. One could say that is part of an add to the contingency until we have gone out to bid with the project. We're not going to know what that total holds. And all of those things are subject, though, to an approval process that's come in. And then we have the capability of knowing what the low bids are for the Brothers indicates there's about 15 different kinds of packages. If you talk about ones, then that allows then for us to have latitude in coming up with that. But then finance has the capability, is included in the total package.
Okay, I'm gonna not keep rolling the dice on his receptioning the mountains of Colorado. Mark, I messaged you the call-in info, so if you could join us that way, just so we can make sure people can get any questions answered that they may have. I think, even what Mark.
Yes, will do.
Okay, thank you. What Mark summarized is this very similar to what we presented to you during the last conversation. the difference is just in the hypothetical financing plan, and I think the main take-home here is, hearing the very valid concern about an impact to the taxpayer, even though we were sticking within that 1 penny per $1,000 of value we took it originally from 7 years down to 3 years or 2 years. Now what we've redone is restructured our borrowing package, if you will, and have reduced that debt mill rate. So there will be there would hypothetically be no increase to the taxpayer for this portion of the debt levy. The debt levy would go down. So that's the big change between the new spreadsheets that you're seeing from Baird. So with that, I will open it up to any questions or comments, topics people want to discuss. They're on. Yeah, Mr. Moldenhauer.
There was some talk about the soils being undesirable. Did we ever get a soils report? I don't think I ever saw one.
So we didn't do soil borings until a certain point in design. I'm looking at you because I don't know what that design point is. If you want to, do you mind coming up, Anthony? So we originally received information on environmental assessments that the foundation had done on the land when they purchased it. We had those when we purchased it, but then specific borings for soil happen at a different point.
I think they happened earlier this summer before we were
Yes,
brought on board
they were.
as construction manager, so I'm
Yep.
not sure of the exact date. And then it took a while for that report to come. And
Yep.
we just got that report, I want to say,
Chief?
6 weeks ago maybe?
I
A
think
month ago?
The process probably started in April with the contract to have the the borings done, and we got the final report only a month ago.
Because I'm just concerned about the soils. How far is this going to take us away from reaching our goal? I mean, as far as total bill.
We accounted for, I believe it was like 17 or 18,000 cubic yards of replacement in our budget. So that's
That's a lot of yards.
It's a lot, yes. And I think there were areas where there were like 6 feet of topsoil that have to be replaced on that site. So it was significant. I think when you all add it all told, it's about 350 to 400,000.
And there was guarantee that there was no contaminated soils, correct?
I believe that's what the Health Foundation had.
Yeah, I haven't received any notification of that.
That's what I'm concerned about. If we get contaminated soil, that's it's very expensive.
Ju-
Everything that I've seen come back on the soils report said it's not contaminated, it's fine, we shouldn't have any problem getting rid of it. The problem was the compaction ratio on some of the soils there, so they got to get rid of the unsuitable ones, replace it with crushed stone, so it'll hold the weight of the building essentially.
We're still making assumptions. The city will have a third-party soils engineer on site that actually tells you what you have to do as we're digging. So we're trying to err on the conservative side with that number.
And just one other thing on that. On that amount of soil, what would that amount to in dollars and cents?
The
Changing it out.
yeah, the allowance we're carrying, I think, is like 373,000. I don't have I have the exact number somewhere, but it's significant.
It's significant, yes.
Yes.
I assume then the foundation has a phase 1 audit? Is that what you're saying?
I believe so, yes.
So we should have already seen that report if they have it.
We received reports from the foundation a couple of years ago when we bought the land. Like, they gave us what they got when they purchased the land. So we have no indication, we're not planning for contaminated soil removal. We're planning and budgeting for it to be removed and taken off site, just like regular soil, and
Right.
new soil brought in.
But that's what the phase 1 audit would have told you.
If there was contaminated, that would
Exactly.
have
If there was
shown
any
up there.
history of
Yep.
Yes.
any use of the site that would contaminate it.
I recently chatted at a mayor meetup about the soil because someone asked the question, and I said, well, changing out soil isn't abnormal in a project. Is this more than normal? It's more than normal. But when you're looking for land within the response territory and you're looking for this amount of acreage, find me another spot of 7 acres within the 94, 96% response area, and we would have loved to see it. So I think this is based on the response territory and the service area that we wanted to make sure we could hit, and the acreage that we knew we needed. We were fortunate in a lot of ways to find land that met those needs. Were you going to say something, Chief?
I was just looking back. I've never received any indication that there was contaminated soils there. Everything I got always said the soils were clean, just that it was
Unsuitable.
unsuitable to build on.
Yep. Yeah, Mr. Schmidt.
So with that estimated cost, and I do understand it's an estimate because we won't know until we start digging holes in the ground, is that assuming that we're doing most of the work in regards to changing the soil out with the
That's a
new
great
crushed stuff?
question.
And if so, when we're talking about unsuitability for building, we're talking about the water level being too high and it being too soft in regards to the water table? Or what are we referring to for unsuitability for building?
Unsuitability is the soil itself, just the type of soil, and its ability to be compacted and then have foundations bear on it. There is a high water table on this site, and we also have $100,000 in our budget for dewatering, which is essentially drilling down and having pumps run to keep the water table down as you're building. So yeah, that's also a challenge, but they're kind of two separate items. Going back to the
Yep.
gravel, we have been talking about that the last probably month, looking for options for the city to possibly do some of that work, provide some of the fill, maybe even truck it. In our discussions with some of the local excavators that would be bidding on this work and doing that work otherwise, we were asking about where typically, and I don't want to say anything publicly because it could be a competitive advantage, but where they would be getting this material from that would meet that process would be significantly cheaper than what it would cost the city to blast and produce out of the quarry. And the reason for that is it's kind of a byproduct of another business's other business that they essentially look for ways to get rid of, either very cheaply.
So we've evaluated us doing some of the trucking. We've evaluated us doing the blasting. I think where we've come to with the trucking is it would take us something like 20 to 25 days with our tandem axles. And a lot of these excavators have quads. So the quad axle cuts that time by half, arguably. And so the amount of time we would spend and the dollars we would save, the cost benefit wasn't there for us to do the trucking ourselves. We had that discussion within the last couple of weeks. Literally what Anthony just shared with you was just shared with us earlier today, that because we were planning on building the extra blasting into our quarry contracting and budgeting. But it sounds like as of today that it's going to be more cost effective for those private contractors that would potentially bid the project to be able to get the material themselves.
For the vast majority of it, there might be instances, we were talking about other things like landscaping and some of
Yeah.
the
Yep.
special
Yep.
composted soils that are needed for some of these retention ponds.
Yep,
There's
so-
certain things that the city can still look at.
We're going to we're at this point anyway, we're still planning on producing the organic soil that will be needed for the bottom of some of the stormwater best management practices. And then we're still planning on our parks crews doing the landscaping and the tree planting in substitution of some of the plantings and landscaping.
Okay, so the ROI just wasn't there in regards to the gravel and swap out, but
No.
we're still looking at it for some of the other areas where it could
Yep.
be.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we just had that coordination meeting within the last couple of weeks with our internal team and really got down to crunching numbers around trucking and the wear and tear we could potentially put on our trucks for what we were saving, the amount of days we're taking them away from their regular work. It just wasn't penciling out. What else? Mr. Blanky?
So in regards to the unsuitability of the soils and having to fill, the building is obviously going to be extremely heavy. The equipment inside the building is going to be extremely heavy. And from everything I've heard from the chief and others, that equipment's only getting bigger and heavier. Are there any concerns with settling, causing either foundational damage or other damage to the facility after it's been built with all this fill? I mean, we're talking about a high water table, which can cause erosion, shifting soil underneath even after this is completed.
So typically when you have any project, but especially on fill projects, that those same engineers that basically tell you what you have to do, again, they're going to be third party. They're going to be there and they're also going to be testing the compaction, rolling, test proofing, test rolling of the site. So there's, with the civil engineering, the structural engineering, and those engineers that are on site as far as the soils testing, you're going to be covered. I mean, they err on the side of safety on that one. So I wouldn't foresee there being a big risk of that, really any risk.
So they're going to, effectively what I'm asking is, are they going to overshoot what we have now? Because I'm hearing a lot of that, this is what we need right now. We're looking at what we need 5 or 10 years from now. So is that what they're doing? Basically, if we say right now we need it to, and I'm just gonna use a generic dumb number, I know this isn't even close, but we need it to hold 10 tons. Are we engineering it to hold 13, 14, 15, so that we know that 10 years from now, when we have equipment that's twice as heavy, we're not going to run into issues and have issues with the floor, foundation, whatever?
Yeah, frankly, I know equipment's gotten bigger over the decades, and it may continue to get bigger, but that's going to be absolutely negligible when you're talking about the weight of the building. I mean, it would just be,
Good question.
it would, yeah.
What else? And I'm looking at you all remotely too, so pop in whenever you need to.
So
Yeah,
so I didn't get the updated ones, but with the columns based on the old ones, so which of the 4 columns, Mark, are we looking at that gets us the training tower and those kind of things, and the only thing it omits is the vehicle parking for the, like the primary response budget vehicles, like the chief's vehicles, deputy chief's vehicles? And
Is the, Mark, is 14 the column that you're suggesting at this point? Mark?
Yes, 14 million.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah, so that just, oh, sorry. So Mark, that only, what does that eliminate from the 14.5? What's the difference between those two? Just curiosity. Am I missing it here?
So 14 million puts us, again, if we're using 12 and a half, which is the middle of the range that Moss provided to us, that middle range puts us at a plus of around 515,000, but that's with removing the storage building. So the 14 million, again, assuming that we're halfway through that range, puts us in a position where we would purchase the building minus the garage, minus the basement, minus a handful of other value engineering items, but it would include the tower and exclude the storage building. That was a mouthful. Did that make sense?
It did.
Okay.
So which leads into the next question. By losing all of that space, do we actually have the storage space that we need for the stuff that we're going to have? Because that was one of the concerns about getting some of that extra space, was to keep things all in one physical site instead of having it in multiple sites. I know that was the big thing I had in that cold storage building.
Yeah.
Yeah, without the ability to put the cold storage building there, we just keep our hazmat trailers, our other trailers at the old recycling plant where they are now, and we're still driving back there to get them. Rather than driving from here to get them, we'll just be driving from the new station to get them.
My only trepidation around, not only, but one of the main ones around the Katy Street building is if you look at our facility assessment report that we did this last budget year, that building is not in good condition. It is probably, Mark, you know that one better than I do, if you want to jump in. But I think that building has HVAC trouble, being that it doesn't have much of any. I think there's holes in some of the walls. So that's my concern about some of that space. That's not to say it can't still house items. It's just to say long-term strategy-wise, it's not, I wouldn't put it in a long-range plan.
Well, and that goes into my concern, is we're put all of this time, energy, effort into creating a central location where everything is meant to be in one physical location, and yet now we're talking about still having it in more than one location. I get we're trying to save money, but it doesn't make sense if we're already dumping 10 to 12, 15 million into a property with a building, and we're still having stuff in more than one location when the whole purpose was to get everything into one physical location. That doesn't seem rational, I guess, to me.
Go ahead, Mark.
The $14 million column still does have the capability of that storage building being afforded. We're taking it out because it's a standalone structure that could wait until the end of the process when we see and understand what we have to afford for other purposes. But that's where, if you will, that 507,000 at the bottom of that column is greater than the 350,000 assumption for the storage building. So again, it can be done at a future decision, but it does not have to be something that follows the rest of the building structure process.
So it could happen, or it would go in as an alternate. So if it comes in, it is something we would potentially be able to fund.
I think the plan was to have that storage building be, as Emily said, an alternate. So in like a bid package, you'll have like a base bid that's, say, going to be the main building, and then you'll have like an alternate one, added cost for all the bidders to include the storage building. So what that does is it gives you flexibility, depending on what that base bid comes in at. You know, if they come in advantageous and you have enough there, you take that. If for whatever reason they came in over and you're a little worried about the contingency that's left, maybe you hold off on it. So it kind of gives you that that firm number at the bid process to make that decision off of.
And our intention is to bring the alternates to finance for them to determine which ones get included and or not included. I think I understand where you're coming from, and I hear your concern. I think really this is an act of compromise. I think there are people who are very uncomfortable at both ends. Like clearly I appreciate you're wanting to have it all in. I think there's people who are wanting not to, and I think like any good government should do, we're working to find that common ground where we feel like we can accomplish what needs to be accomplished, because that we've all agreed to, or the majority of us have at least, that this fire station is not able to continue in its current capacity. We need to build a new one. And so that need requires us to compromise, and I think that's where we're landing on these two numbers that are in this most recent version, which are 13.5 and 14, both of which reduce the burden on the taxpayer, which is a very, very good concern. Both of which give us the best opportunity we can to get the things that we need, but then also have the appropriate kind of check with one another on, okay, well, which item are we going to include? Is it time for the storage building or not? And what I'm sure Mark is dying to remind us all is we're just doing this short-term note. This is the note anticipation note. This is us taking that construction loan. And then we will be able to take that longer-term borrow when we're done building and then prepay anything we don't need. So let's say it came in, great. Your estimates were high, right? And now we're able to not need 14. We can accomplish it with 13.5. Then we prepay back the $500,000, and we're all in a great place. I think what we just don't want is to be in a position where we've gone at. Really, what I was thinking about today is we've spent $600,000 already. We spent about $200,000 purchasing the property. That's $800,000. I can't imagine any of us are willing to walk away from an $800,000 investment, especially because what we're asking for here is the potential to spend up to $1 million more if we need it. So really all we're saving is $200,000 and then not getting a station, right? And we all know that's a need. So, Mr. Board.
What's the status of the drawings?
Are we around 60%? We're getting, to be frank, they've stopped. Correct? I mean, we've paused and we're getting behind.
Yeah, we had them stop when we took our 3 to 4 weeks to do the budget process, because frankly, we didn't want them to keep designing until we knew what that budget was going to come in at. Because that would be time that they would either be wasted and need to be paid.
In
additional.
design. So
Correct.
we've continued, like last 2 weeks ago, we did interior. We did flooring and wall color and, stuff like that. So we haven't stopped the project, but design is still hovering around 60% complete.
So when is completion date of the drawings?
I believe-
Assuming you get some budget approval,
I believe we were still waiting to hear back from the architects because we did put them on pause for
The
about
goal,
5
though,
weeks.
is still to build, or to bid.
The target's to bid this out in like January, February, somewhere in winter. That's where you're going to get the most advantageous response. And then that also provides some lead time on certain items that are still, snarled in the chain of supply chain. So that gives us a little ground, and then we can hit the ground running once spring arrives and
May-ish.
Hopefully May.
May-ish.
Depending what the
I'm saying
weather is.
ish now.
Yeah. So, you know, because obviously we're talking about the soils, so there's you know, some significant time there when the weather does change before we can even start tackling, you know, the foundations and
Right.
the actual building construction. So we definitely want to keep the ball rolling and get this bid out in winter and ready to go when it can.
Mayor, in our most recent meeting with the architect, we gave them the green light to go ahead. And I have also insisted to them that they're supposed to be having a 90% completion presentation to the council. And I've given to them the 2 dates in January that they should plan on attending one of those 2 dates.
Thank you, Mark. Ms. Davis, I see you. Are you on mute, ma'am? Yeah, it doesn't look like it either, but I can see you moving, but I can't hear you talking. Oh, don't say never mind. Do you want, okay, we'll come back to you. Maybe try to call or type it in the chat. I can open the chat. What others? Questions? Mr. Wetzel, did you have anything? I think you're on mute too. Okay. You're okay? All right. What other questions? Mr. Bartz.
Maybe you discussed it at the last meeting. I was unable to attend because I was out of the country. But how did we get to the reduction of 1 cent in the dead mill rate when previously we had an increase of 1 cent?
A couple things. So Mark, I'll come to you in a second, but the biggest one is we reorganized the principal payment structure. Mark, do you want to speak to how we were able to remove the 1 penny?
Yeah, you know, working with Baird and Brad, asked him if, you know, what would it take for us to modify that so that the mill rate was not impacted, and in fact, what could we do to potentially help that mill rate? The anticipation note isn't changed from the last time that he gave me models, but what has been modified is a slight change in the principal pay down on what we're borrowing this next year, the 3.12 million amount that also impacts the mill rate. So it was just a readjustment of the principal pay down on the 8 years that we're going to be committing to paying down the 3.1 million that we borrow in 24.
Mr. Lampe?
Can I try now?
Yes, please. Sorry, Mr. Lampe. Go, Ms.
Okay.
Davis.
I think I figured it out. Okay, one thing I was going to touch on, we actually spoke about briefly at the last meeting, and it's just a request I have that we move away from saying that there has been a 45% increase in the building costs. While that is true, in this area there has been a 45% increase since 2019. Since 2022, when we had 5 Bugles draft or their proposal, it's been a 3% increase. So I don't think it is in full context to say that the reason we're at where we are today is because of that 45% increase. Definitely costs have gone up. But I also wanted to say that I'm appreciative of Mr. Moss. In October, I think he did the math and went back and looked at the comparable that was built in 2016, 2017. And from there, realized or brought to everyone's attention that what the costs were going to be. I wish we had done that sooner, that we had dug into that number, looked at the increased cost, and arrived at that sooner. I think that would have given us a better number going forward than the number we were originally operating on. I do think that Mr. Stevens and the whole team there with Baird and everyone who's been involved they've come up with a solution for where we find ourselves at right now. But I will speak to those of us that are hesitant, having spoken to lots of community members, sharp, intelligent, on the ball community members who are looking at this as another, well, of course it's going up because this is how government works, and you say one thing and then it goes up. And I don't say that to fault anyone. Yes, numbers have gone up, but it's not, it's, we all want to be as careful and conscientious as possible. And so I guess that just is going to mean if we go forward with either the 13.5 or the 14, that it rests on finance have high scrutiny, high level of scrutiny as we look at those alternates. But it's burdensome for me. I'm wrestling still with all of this.
I appreciate the comments. I will offer to you only that I wish we could have had Moss on sooner too, but we got to a point in the project where we finally felt like we had consensus to commit, because when you commit to Moss, we're committing to paying you nearly $1 million. And so we needed to make sure that we had that consensus around this table before I signed a contract with all of your permission. Do you want to speak to cost? I can see you just, and then I'll make sure I get to you, Mr. Lampy.
I'm a contractor and I don't often defend architects, but in defense of Five Bugles, that report was 2022, and there was a 12-month period, basically 21 into 22, where construction inflation ran about 21%. So if they did not have their thumb firmly on the pulse of the industry, and we're working off numbers that were even 18 months prior to when they did that report, that explains, frankly, why that square foot number was probably too low at that point in time. And then obviously you go from there. The last couple of years haven't been as steep, but for 2021 into 22 was a very steep inflation.
I cut you off before. Do you have something?
Sure. I really kind of hope today's discussion kind of puts the whole soils bugaboo to bed. It looks like we've got allocations in the new plan that's come forward. We're building contingency into the plan. In fact, a major piece of why we're looking at some of these larger figures is to make sure that we have an appropriate contingency for a large plan here. I also really appreciate kind of the side-by-side piece that's in tonight's packet. If you look at the financing projections here, and I think this gets into what Alderman Bartz was questioning, where's the penny reduction? You dig into the mill rates there, and you look at like the 13.5 versus the 14. You're looking at, literally a difference between the two of like 2 cents a mill. And if my math is right, if you kind of take that out, $250,000 home, that's about $5 a year per property, I think. Mark's gonna yell at me if I got that wrong. So, we're basically talking about, an appropriate amount of money to build the fire station or a roast beef sandwich.
And I think, to just clarify, it's a reduction. So I think you get the fire station and the roast beef sandwich.
I'm talking about the 13.5 versus the 14.
Oh, the difference between, well.
Yeah, if you start going
okay.
down the line, starting at 2026, you're gonna see a 2-penny
I follow you.
diversion
Okay.
all the way up, well, maybe up until 44.
Understood.
Because this is 20-year bonding. But basically, it's $5 per household in the city, or we can guarantee that we have, a well-equipped fire station for our EMS personnel.
I do want to say, if I may,
Yes.
it's, as you all know, it's nuanced though, because while yes, it's a $5 sandwich, we all are very much aware where our tax rates are in this community. And that's what the community members I'm speaking to are. And we know that there's a housing shortage. And so it's a very complex issue that makes it all very difficult.
I don't think that's mine. I'll take care of that one. Okay. Sorry about that, Ms. Davis. He was also talking
fine.
ironically about sandwiches.
Sounds delicious. So, I want to make sure that we're very careful, because when we compare it like that, we're forgetting that the taxes are still going up, and we're not taking into account all of the other ways that the taxes are going to go up. When really what we have to do is we've got to somehow reverse that. So that we can get taxes down, and property taxes and housing costs. And I know it's beyond even our control in a large degree, but it stems from these types of decisions though, and at least that's what I've been wrestling with.
Well, and I if you were in the room, you would have seen my face go, huh? Because this budget this year is a budget that has the least increase to taxes
Oh.
ever, right? Like,
Yes.
I presented a budget
get
to the
that.
finance committee that didn't increase taxes at all. It kept them completely
We did.
flat.
We worked really hard at that.
And then we
But
add.
we're still high. And please don't take this, and I'm not in any way disparaging or trying to be in any way negative. I'm just trying to help us realize that these types of decisions don't make taxes go down. And somehow, we've got to get this housing situation that's in many ways beyond us in a way that we're improving our community too.
Yep,
But
you're-
again, that's for another
No,
day.
you're right.
probably.
You're not wrong about housing, but I'll tell you, we work housing every single day. We just launched a program, this morning, actually. I've had quite a bit of interest already. So I think we're chipping away at that the best that we're equipped to at the city. That I feel confident for sure saying. Mason's grinding pretty hard on that every day. But, yeah, I understand. And yes.
Did you have something else? I just have one question for Mark. If we do the $14 million project, we have a $507,000 shortfall. If we spend $500,000 less, we have a $27,000 shortfall. I'm not understanding the numbers.
Paul, those are, if you will, additional funds. The shortfall would be representing in the 12.5 first column, where you see the 987 in brackets. The other columns are not shortfalls, they are just the opposite.
So the 27,353 is to the better. That's a plus of 27,000. And I think if that were
Yeah.
a little bigger, we'd feel more confident going with 13.5. But since this whole model is predicated on a spectrum, and we picked the midpoint of that spectrum, 27,000 isn't enough for me to feel confident that we can award a fire station bid. And so that's why we are pushing or suggesting that 14 gives us the room we need to ensure with finance touch base that we can award a project. Sir?
I just want to keep redirecting people's attention to what we have on pages 3 and 4 here. I mean, that's the schedule of the mill rates for the next 20 years or so. And as it pertains to tax rates, again, look at 2023 versus any of the schedules versus 2024. That's where the tax rate drops. 2023 drops from 2023 to 2024, and then it starts dropping, depending on the plan you pick, in 2026 or 2027. And so we have a plan in front of you that basically gets us, quote-unquote, a free fire station while reducing taxes, and that's basically born on the back of just some good debt reduction over the past couple of years. And so we're not necessarily bringing a plan to you that's raising taxes. We're bringing a plan that reduces taxes and somehow gets us the fire station that we need for the next, 20, 30, 40 years.
Any other last thought? Yes, sir.
With the contract, we've talked about this before in regards to, there's the initial contract with our contractor, and then there's subcontractors underneath that are going to vary based on who's bidding on what. Are we locked in contractually for lowest price or best value? Because when it comes to government contracting, that does matter, and I've done contracting before where I've picked the best value and not the lowest bidder because of quality issues. And that's my concern on a project this high visibility.
So the city does have the ability to reject the bid for basically any reason. I can tell you that I have very rarely seen it. I have seen it in public bids. So you do have that ability, but 99% of the time, the low bidder, someone who qualifies and gets the plans and can get a bid bond and a performance bond, is inherently going to be qualified to do the project. We don't get into the weeds about asking them who their superintendent's going to be and stuff like that. That can obviously provide better or worse service and quality, but the pros and cons, one of the cons of public bid is that you really, there's only so much you can do to pre-qualify people, and so much information you can ask from them to make a decision on that's not, frankly, just the low cost.
I'm aware of that. It's all about how you write the contract, how it goes to the bidding system, and the systems that are used. I was just making sure we have that mechanism in place. To kind of address Alderman Davis's concerns and some of the constituents he's run into, and then what Alderman Lampy has said, it's the same coin. We may be getting the physical structure on paper for a no-cost improvement, which is outstanding, and I'm not discouraging that. That's a huge issue. But where I think the concern is the long-term ripple effect, because you build a big shiny new building, there's going to be increased cost that's going to come from somewhere. So I see both issues, and I like that we have a contingency built in. I'm not a fan of the laundry list of things that are built-in alternatives if they're in the budget because of bidding, because contractors will bid it out to get the maximum profit for themselves, not necessarily what's best for us. So yeah, it's complicated, but I do think we do have a good, solid plan to at least have an option to move forward with.
Yeah, and we're at 7:01, so unless anyone has, I will, go ahead, yep.
I'll be brief. The first thing, I just want to commend Mark for the work that he's done on this. It's absolutely amazing that he's been able to structure this to basically hold the line on taxes and increase them by the penny. I do just want to address one quick thing. We're not getting this for free. It's not lowering taxes, because not building it would lower taxes a lot more. Borrowing the money, we have to pay it back. That prevents the mill rate from going down faster. So it's not
That's
free.
true, yeah, that's true.
Mark has done an amazing job to make it zero impact, but it is not free.
Yeah, and I think both of your comments are a great way to end it, because what I want us to all kind of just keep leveling ourselves up to is we all know the current station will not function. So not only, well, taxes, on paper would go down, but guarantee we have improvements we need to make to the station, the current one. So we're going to invest in some manner. It's just, I think we're all of the position that investing appropriately in a fire station that is in the best interest of our community and the best interest of these folks sitting in the room and all of their colleagues in the way of keeping them safe is really our responsibility. So as we deliberate and you percolate on this in your head for the next little bit, I just want you all to keep in mind that we all decided that we needed this fire station. And I don't blame a single one of you for not liking the cost. I don't like the cost. You don't like the cost. I'm sure Mark hates the cost. But what remains is that we need the station. And the fact that we've needed a station that was built in 1960, that we've very little cohesively invested in over the course of many, many decades, is leaving the 9 of us now in a position where we have to make the tough choice on if now's the time to push in. And I think we've all answered that question already, that now is the time to push in. So it's not a matter of if we need the station. I think we've agreed on that. We just have to make sure that we can support it the best way we can. I was racking my brain like, oh, what could we maybe we could cut that dorm, but then I'm like, but then we're not building a station that's the right size. I was negotiating in my own head, and I don't want to find us in the position, to your point, where are we thinking, 10 years down the road? Do we need that dorm tomorrow? No, but we're going to need that dorm, right? So there's no point in cutting that dorm, because then we're going to be back here, some of us, asking for that dorm, the proverbial dorm. So I just please keep that in mind. That's where we're at. Because there are so many people attending remotely, what I'm going to do is just give us all I'm going to take a motion to adjourn in just a second. Give us all a minute just to reset, and then we're going to start council right away. So, sir, yes, sir.
I move we adjourn.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Board, second by Mr. Shinn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. It's 7:04. I'll give us a 7:05. So if anyone needs to go to the restroom, grab some water. For those of you online, we'll get started in just a minute. I don't want to risk losing anyone remotely. So Megan, can you take a peek at the notice? I just want to make sure. Is it the same meeting? Okay, very good.
I would
Could
have gotten it for you.
Email it? commenting, if you would please just fill out a form and hand it to our clerk here. We do have opportunities at the beginning and end of our meeting. So we are unmuted. For any of our,
This conference will now be recorded.
for our alders attending remotely, should we ever cut out, just give me the good old wave and I will do my best to troubleshoot. Okay, so with that, I'm going to call our meeting to order. Megan, will you please take the roll?
Davis?
Here?
Lampy? Ford?
Here.
Bartz? Blanky?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
Schmid?
Here.
Wetzel?
Here.
Moldenhauer?
And if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the first item on our agenda is the minutes of the council meeting from November 7th. Comments or questions from anyone? All right, very good. Then let's go to comments and suggestions from citizens present. As I just said, if anyone would like to comment, you can give a slip to the clerk. Megan.
Linda Kaufeld? W8370 Long Road.
Ms. Caulfield, is the microphone on? I just want to make sure. Stephen, will you take a peek?
I'm just here to compliment the safety committee that had all attended, and it was just a wonderful meeting. It was, it was just a wonderful meeting. It was just relaxed and calm, and it was well thought out. And these 4 members obviously have put a tremendous amount of time into the safety ordinance, and and we were able to make some comments, and they were well received, and I think they were good comments. And so I just wanted to thank the 4 members who have tirelessly put, I don't know how many hours they have put into this ordinance, but it truly is going in a good direction, and I think we're feeling pretty good about it. And I appreciate the fact that it seems to be real bulletproof. You know, they're trying to think of all angles. And ultimately, the goal, of course, is for safety for the public and safety for the children. So I just wanted to thank these 4 committee members who seem to be doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Jerry Lynn Frederick, 1302 Randolph Street.
I'm sorry, we have to go in order. Do you want to comment at the end of the meeting, you mean? Oh, that we can do.
Brad Fox.
Good evening. My name is Brad Fox. I'm a battalion chief at the fire department. I've been a member there since 2008. Thank you for the opportunity to briefly speak in support of complete funding of the fire station being proposed this evening and the training facility. Tonight, the future and the direction of the Watertown Fire Department will be decided. There may be a few options on the table, but in reality, there's only 2. Option 1, the Watertown Fire Department will be given the opportunity and the tools that it needs to grow and expand our services. There are many great things happening in the city as well as within the department. The city is continuing to grow. Commercial and residential construction seems to be happening everywhere. The Benson Family Town Square has given a new energy to downtown. In the end of this month, the Watertown Fire Department will be fully staffed at 9 members per shift. When I started, we were staffed at 6, so this is a huge step in the progress of expanding and improving the services that we're able to provide. The proposed station and training facility will offer more than just space for personnel and apparatus. It will give the department an opportunity to grow into a fire department that is more appropriately staffed and diversified in services which are expected of a department in a city the size of Watertown. The proposed facilities also hold the potential to create revenue for the department as well as the city. A modern training building and classroom space with the station attached will also offer a chance to put Watertown on the map and bring instructors and firefighters from around the country to participate in training. This increased exposure will draw quality future firefighters from around the country and may spark the interest of Watertown's middle school and high school students who may not have otherwise considered a career in the fire service. Option number 2 continue what sometimes seems to be a tradition of missed opportunities. If the decision is made to either decrease funds or to eliminate training structures, it will almost guarantee that the progress that we are making as a department will come to a standstill. Yes, the new building will be better suited to meet our current needs. In 5 to 10 years, we'll be exactly where we were 15 years ago. Maxed out, no way to improve, no place to expand. If we pass up the proper training facilities now, I don't see chances for us building one in the relatively near future, especially one that offers the same potential that the department and the city as we are proposing now. Let us not miss this opportunity to allow the WFD to grow into a department that we are capable of becoming and a department that the city truly needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. We do have another opportunity at the end of our meeting for people to comment. We have one public hearing this evening. This is a public hearing to repeal and recreate Chapter 545, the subdivision of land. I will open that public hearing. If anyone would like to comment on that, you can come to the microphone. Or if anyone would like to comment online. All right, we will close that public hearing. Let's move to reports. You have the Park, Rec, and Forestry minutes from September 18th, Public Safety from November 2nd, and Public Works from November 14th. Any comments from anyone on any of those minutes? All right, then let's go to communications and recommendations. We have a couple for us this evening. Let me catch up in my packet. We have two this evening. Lori Bachler with the Water Department is celebrating 30 years, which is an incredible milestone. So we thank Lori for her dedication to the city. And then Peg is also here as well. So Peg, I'll invite you to you and Heidi to come up for 5 years at the library.
First of all, I just want to give a thank you to the City Council for allowing department heads to come in and speak on behalf of their employees, their team members. So on behalf of the Library Board of Trustees and your library team members, we would like to congratulate Heidi on her 5 years of service to the City of Watertown, the library, and our library patrons. And what a 5 years it has been for Heidi. A few things happened during her time here. A pandemic, which disrupted not only people's lives, but library schedules and library services. Followed on the heels of that was an expansion and construction project, which also tested the idea of other duties as assigned, because Heidi was participated in moving the library not once, but twice. So that's unloading shelves, reloading shelves, moving carts. So I commend Heidi on being a part of that. Not only that, she's still here. Okay? So in her 5 years, she's become a valued, respected, and trusted team member. She supports her coworkers, remains cool, calm under pressure, especially when being filmed from behind a bookcase, and takes on new responsibilities and shares her enthusiasm for library services with others. Heidi wanted to work at the library, and we are so happy that she is a member of the library. So,
Thank you. Our other item under this section is the fire department's monthly report. Anyone have any questions or comments for the chief? All right.
I had one.
Oh, yes, sir.
Did I see again that October's a record month again?
Yes, October was another record month for calls.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Let's go to new business then. We have committee appointments. There's one committee appointment there for your consideration and approval. Is there a motion on that one? Motion by Mr. Bourne.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blanky. Any comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right. Now, this is not something that normally happens in our meetings, and it's going to be a little bit tricky because we've got a full house online as well. But we have 2 closed sessions this evening. So in a moment, I'm going to take a motion to go to closed session, which means all of you in the audience will have to just step out into the hallway, and I'm going to ask our deputy chief to grab the door on his way out. And then we'll invite you back in. I don't believe either one are very long. So I don't think either one will take much time. But just for awareness, we'll ask you to step out, and then we'll have you come back in. So for those of you online, so Mr. Wetzel and Ms. Davis, I am going to call you because I'm going to have to turn off all the sound in the chambers because we have so many people on remotely. So do you guys have cell phones nearby? So I'm going to call one, and then could you
Can we
call?
just move these to the end of the agenda? Are we allowed to do that?
I mean, we can do that, but do you want to do that? I mean, we already have people going, so we'll just take it now. But can you call someone too?
You want to call Bob?
You can call Bob and I'll call Dana. Give me that. Oh, I've got to call it out first.
I have a question as well.
Sure.
Can we take the two closed sessions
I was kind
together?
of hoping the same thing. Can we take them both
Even though
together?
they're different items, can we do them at the same time?
I'd have to re-say it.
You would have to read both of them at the same time.
I will.
They're the basis is the same.
Are you all
so-
fine with that if I read them both at the same time? Okay. Good thinking. I know how much you love hearing me read the closed session. Okay. Could I please have a motion to go to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, paren 1, paren G, to confer with the city attorney, who will be rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. This is going to be for 3 items: Barron versus the City of Watertown, Byers versus the City of Watertown, and then a claim for a refund adjustment on the 2022 property taxes with WISPAC.
We'll move.
Mr. Moldenhauer, Mr. Schmidt, Megan, will you take the roll, please?
Moldenhauer. Davis.
Aye.
Lampy. Board. Bartz.
Aye.
Blanky.
Aye.
Smith. Schmidt. Wetzel. Motion passed 8-0.
Okay, I'm going to call Miss Davis. I'm going to
sorry,
mute.
that's 9.
Oh,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you. I'm going to mute the room.
So 8 now.
All right, there you are. So I think what I'm going to do, are you on the phone with Bob?
I am.
You guys, this is how we did it at the beginning of COVID. When we had nothing. about that for some 21st century? Yes, I will. Thank you, sir. I'd appreciate you reminding me to stop it next time. That's normally my problem.
This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you, everybody, for the little do-si-do. So we're back and open. The mics are on, the camera's on, the doors are open. We're recording. So with that, let's move to the accounts payable. Motion by Mr. Moldenhauer, seconded by Mr. Bartz. Any questions or comments on the accounts? Ms.
I
Davis.
have a question.
Ms. Davis.
Just talk to me about the Christmas parade. Is that a pass-through? There's a lot of payments going out for the Christmas parade.
Mark?
Yes, that is a pass-through. It's part of Fund 24, which is a non-reoccurring account. So all monies that are coming in get deposited into that account, and then it goes out to pay the various bills. I work with Andy Tessman to secure all of those requests.
Any other questions or comments on the accounts? Megan?
Moldenhauer. Davis.
Aye.
Lampy.
Aye.
Ford.
Aye.
Bartz.
Aye.
Blanky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Wetzel.
Aye.
Motion passed 9-0.
All right, very good. Mr. Wetzel, will you mute us? Thank you. All right, let's move to licenses then. The first item is a memo to council. Megan has done a great job of providing you an update from the licensing board. I am going to go to the city attorney because we do have one adjustment. Stephen?
One of the applications was approved with a condition that the individual only be able to serve at a specific location. I was advised or requested to research that a little bit more to see what restrictions and conditions we can put on a bartender's operator's license. And in reviewing the statutes, that's not something we would be able to do once they've been issued their license. We can't put those additional conditions on their license. It would only be a condition that can be placed on them to obtain their license in the first place.
Okay. So in the memo for Megan, we're going to have the Class B, which is first. That has a conditional approval. That one's fine, though. That's about meeting certain requirements, like inspection and things like that. So that's fine.
Correct.
So it would be item C, the operator. That's the one you're alluding to, correct? The operation license for Ms. Kiefer?
Yes.
Okay. And then we also have item D, which, as you'll see in the memo for Megan, is about the recommended denial from licensing board. Does anyone have questions on what Stephen just said? Otherwise, I'll just move to licenses. Okay, so let's go to our first then. This is to review and take action on an application for a Class B malt and liquor license for Salvador Food Service with Louise Salvador as the agent. This is at 1727 South Church. Mr. Lampy.
I move to approve that license.
With the conditions from the licensing board?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Will you second?
Second.
All right. So motion by Lampy and a second by Blanky. Questions or comments on that one from anyone? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, our next one is to review and take action on an application for an operator license for Rebecca Kiefer. Is there a motion on this one? Mr. Blanky.
I would like to make a motion to approve this license with no conditions.
Motion by Blanky, second by Mr. Lampy. Questions or comments from anyone? Yes.
Just make a comment that there were some things that came up. The individual did come to the licensing board to plead their case, and Chief Kaminsky had no issues with giving this person a license. We put the condition on as sort of a hedge, but I am comfortable, the former chief was comfortable in granting this license with no conditions.
And Ms. Kiefer's here again this evening in case there's any questions. Any other comments or questions? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Very good. All right, our next item is to review and take action on an application for an operator's license for Sally Simano. This was recommended for denial from the licensing board. Mr. Lampy.
I move to deny.
Motion by Lampy, seconded by Mr. Bartz. Questions on this one? All those in favor of the denial, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, very good. Let's go to ordinances. The first is ordinance 23-24. This is to amend section 500-9A, parking prohibited in specified places in the city of Watertown. This is here from Ms. Davis and Public Safety and Welfare on the first reading. Mr. Schmidt.
Just question, or
I'd love a motion first.
I'll make a motion then.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Schmidt. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Smith. Mr. Schmidt.
I can have my question.
Sure.
So it says 50 to 70 feet. I'm reading 60 to 70 feet. I thought it was just the first, there's only 2 parking spaces there, if I thought was the request. Or are we just taking the whole thing? And
This
that's
one I
what-
can't speak to. Ms. Davis, are you? No?
Like, because Park and Rec
I
brought
wouldn't-
it, but I thought it was just 2 spaces, or is that what it measures out to be?
I do see Christine and Andrew if you'd prefer. Let me hop to one of them.
Yep. I do remember talking in terms of spaces, not in terms of feet. So let's move it over to them and see what they have to say.
Andrew?
I can speak to this one.
Sure.
So the way the ordinances are drafted, it is in feet. It does calc out to about 2 spaces with the offsets from the driveway at the Senior Center's northern lot. And then there's an offset from an existing crosswalk near the cross street there. It does calc out to how it reads in the ordinance as proposed.
Okay.
That's fine.
Any other comments or questions, Mr. Bort?
I have one picky
Yep.
thing. The word prohibited is spelled
Oh,
incorrectly
it sure
in the
is in the
first
title.
line.
I see that. We can update that in the title. Mr. Blanky, did you have something?
Yes. Several things, actually.
Okay.
So in the request in the minutes, it was noted that Alderman Schmidt had made a motion to table this because we didn't have information from the police department based on traffic incidents in that area. Now, historically, on September 6th, the Public Safety Committee denied a request for removing parking on Pleasant Street in the area of Douglas School because the police department didn't have any evidence of accidents there. Further, on October 4th, the Public Safety Committee refused a request to remove parking on a portion of the 500 block of Carl Schurz Drive because the police department didn't have any evidence of traffic incidents there. And I'm sorry, there was another one on the same date, October 4th, on East Spalding Street, where it was requested to remove parking. And again, the committee refused to do that due to the fact that the police department had no evidence that there were an additional or uptick of incidents in that location. So in this meeting, the police department didn't have the information readily available, and yet we went ahead and pushed this ordinance to council. Based on past precedent that this committee has set, I would like to make a motion to send this ordinance back to committee until such time that the police reports for traffic incidents in that area can be presented.
Okay, so there's a motion to refer back. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Mr. Lampy. I am just looking at my cheat sheet. Unless, Stephen, you know the answer. No?
Not off my top of my head. A motion to table would take precedence and majority, but the pending motion otherwise would control, I believe.
So we just need a majority vote, and then it would go back to committee? Thank you.
With no discussion?
The referred to committee is open to.
It is debatable.
Discussion, yes.
It is debatable. According to my cheat sheet, it is. I own the cheat sheet. I don't pretend that I know all of these things by heart, so. Who has comments or questions on that? Ms. Davis?
I do have a comment. I believe the meetings reflect that Mr. Schmid withdrew that motion in the committee, and the reason he withdrew it is upon discussion and further input from the Christine and the information she provided. Mr. Schmid withdrew his motion at that time.
Yes.
Yes, understood. That is reflected in the minutes. The concern I have is that we had 3 citizen requests come in front of our board, and we rejected all 3 based on the information that the police department gave us. We had a staff request to remove parking, and we immediately pushed it on without that information from the police department. It's a very bad look for the council to give favoritism to city staff over private citizens. That's why this needs to go back, and we need to get that information from the police department before this goes forward.
Any other questions or comments? Did you take the roll? Let's take the roll. So this is a motion to send back to committee.
Blanky,
Aye.
Smith. Smith. Schmidt. Schmidt. Wetzel. Wetzel.
Aye.
Moldenhauer. Moldenhauer. Davis.
No.
Lampy. Ward.
No.
Sparks.
Aye.
I'm going to give you a second to count those, Megan.
Yep.
7-2.
Motion passed 7-2.
All right. So
You're
that.
making me think about
No,
it.
I'm sorry. I really was trying to give you the moment. So that, we'll head back to public safety and welfare. So Andrew, take note of that one, please, so we can get that penciled in for a future agenda. All right, moving on. Let's go to resolutions. So our first, actually, before I take up our next 3, all 3 are about the budget. They're broken up. So the first one is a resolution, Exhibit 9551. This is a resolution to approve the 2024 budget for Funds 1 and Fund 4. This is here from me and the Finance Committee. Yeah.
I would move to advance, approve, otherwise move it along.
All right. Motion by Lampy.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blanky. So we're talking right now about Fund 1 and Fund 4. Mark, I believe, has emailed you all, is that what this is, Sherry? He's gotten all the information? Or Mark, do you want to step in here?
Sure, be glad to. What you have in your packet was the tax levy recommendation showing last year's 2023 totaling the 15.1 million. This year's 2024, 15,360. That is a 1.72% increase. Just to step back a little bit, we're a week ahead of where we have been in the past. We've usually had to either schedule a meeting or wait until after Thanksgiving to get all of the tax rates calculated. Some of those last minute numbers for other taxing entities just arrived yesterday. And so the handout that you received today has then the rest of the information, the rest of the story, if you will, to show then the comparison of 23 mill rates for Jefferson and Dodge County. They are different, as you can see. And then there's what I call a city weighted blend. About 65% of the property is in Jefferson County, 35% in Dodge. So that's where this is a weighted blend, taking that into consideration. Then you see then the 24 numbers listed next to each of those counties for the general and debt aspects. So although I indicated to you the tax levy is an increase of 1.72%, because there are other things involved, like the valuations of properties, you can see that the city weighted blend mill rate is going from 7.969 to 8.036, which is only a 0.83% increase for the city. That equates to about $6.65 per $100,000 of property tax value. And again, nobody is going to see a $6.65 increase at $100,000 because we're not the only portion of that tax bill. But just to kind of paint the picture of what does the Watertown portion look like, the increase will be about 0.83% for our city residents.
Thank you, Mark. Yes.
Two things, and again, I want to emphasize that it's amazing that we're able to essentially aim for a number here that's under 1% in terms of increase. I think that's fantastic, and everybody involved should definitely, I think, be a little proud of that. My question pertains to anything that we do with Fund 5 this evening. Does that have any adjustment on what the numbers that we're looking at right now?
No, it does not change anything on this resolution.
Good question. Other comments or questions? This one, yes, who was it? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to thank all the members of Finance Committee, the mayor, and Mark Stevens. The number of hours that you've put in on the budget and that you do every year, every Finance Committee. You deserve a huge thank you from the rest of us on the council who don't have to sit through those countless hours. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. This one does require a 2/3 vote, is that correct?
Correct, because it's setting a levy.
Okay, so this one requires 6, right? Okay.
Yes.
These budget ones can get a little different, so I'm going to level set with each resolution, but since this one is setting a levy, this one requires 6 in favor. Other comments or questions? Yeah.
I have one and it might not apply here, so if
Okay.
it doesn't, you can refer me. Relating to, is it this one that's going to deal with budgeting for personnel in certain departments? Is that going to be a different one?
No, that's in Fund 1.
That's the 4-1? Does this allow for an increase in regards to staffing for dispatch, or no?
Like more dispatchers.
Yes, specifically.
That was not, and I'm looking at Assistant Chief Olson, which isn't fair, but that was not a request that I recall being made by the police department for this budget. So no, it does not. Is that correct? Okay. Any other comments or questions? All right, Megan.
Lampy. Board. Bartz. Blanky.
Aye.
Smith. Schmidt.
Schmidt.
Wetzel.
Wetzel.
Aye.
Moldenhauer.
Moldenhauer.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion passed 9-0.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And thank you, everyone, for all of the work on those two funds. Let's go to our next then. This is Exhibit 9552. This is a resolution to approve the 2024 budget for all funds other than Fund 1 and Fund 4. This, again, is from me and the Finance Committee.
And Fund 5.
I was
is
going to say, I
excluded.
think it should say Fund 1, Fund 4, and Fund 5, because Fund 5 is the next one. So what you're approving in this one is not Fund 1, not Fund 4, not Fund 5. So think the water utility, the wastewater utility, all the extra funds that go in the budget. Is there a motion for this resolution? Motion by Mr. Board, second by Mr. Bartz. Questions, comments on any fund that isn't Fund 1, Fund 4, or Fund 5? This one requires at least 5, correct?
5, majority, yes.
All right. Any other comments or questions? One last time. Megan.
Board. Aye. Bartz.
Aye.
Blanky.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Schmidt.
Wetzel.
Wetzel.
Aye.
Moldenhauer. Davis.
Aye.
Lampy. Motion passed 9-0.
All right, very good. Next is Exhibit 9553. This is a resolution to approve the 2024 budget for Fund 5. This is here from me and the Finance Committee. Mr. Lampy.
I would move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Lampy, second by Mr. Bartz. Questions, comments? Mr. Lampy.
Is this the point where we'd look at changing some of the fire station
Yes.
funding? And I think I would like to submit an amendment.
Okay.
My numbers are about right, and I can't look at Mark this time, so. But this would be an increase, I think, in 05, 48, 20, account to be named, from 12.5 million to 14 million.
Could I, so I think in the memo that was provided in Committee of the Whole,
Mhm.
these were from Mark. So what he gave was 05, 48, 20, 20. That's borrowing. That would go from 12.5 to 14. Is that the one you're suggesting?
I'm not sure I'm looking at the same thing. Can you?
So on page 3 of the Committee of the Whole packet, Mark, am I right? Is that where you were going for?
Yes, that is correct. Dash 20 is the last two digits.
So if the intention is to take the fire station borrowing amount from 12.5 to 14, then you're going to want to make a motion on 0548 2020.
Okay, so it's off by one digit. Yes, increase that to 14. Does that also require us to move 05 52 3170 from 8.125 to 9.625?
Mark, in the memo you have 9.1.
I would believe you would want to tie those two together. The first one is the amount of money that would be borrowed on the short term. The second one is taking into consideration the added costs that would be incurred. And this is an approximation, assuming that in 2024, by the end of the year, we'll have approximately 65% of the station completed.
So Mark, would you like, in the information that you provided, that number was 9.1, Mr. Lampy suggesting 9.6, and I think I heard a question, did you say 9.6?
It's a question
I'm
because...
hearing you question, yeah.
Yeah, because if we're putting 1.5 in terms of available funds, what do we do to balance that, besides that account?
I don't assume that we will be spending the rest of the money in 2024. So this is an approximation of how much that we will spend in 24. The rest becomes an add to the fund balance as of December 31, and then provides additional spending in 2025.
So would the amendment have to specify the fund balance as the third account?
It happens automatically when the net of an account, of all of the revenue accounts and the expense accounts, the difference is automatically assigned to the fund balance. Fund balances don't have budgets.
So I think
The net just applies to the fund balance.
Mark, I think if I'm reading Mr. Lampy right, he's looking for your recommendation then on what that second number should be. So if he's desirous to have it go from 12.5 to 14, what is your recommendation on the 05 52 3170? Do you want that, are you suggesting 9.1 as you have in the packet, or are you suggesting 9 point, or he's questioning 9.6?
9.1 is 65%, so that's using the same application as the original budget. 8.125 is 65% of 12.5.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, and that is what I want to do, is basically take, 05 52 3170 from 8.125 up to 9.1 then, based on that assumption that anything that we haven't specifically allocated drops down to fund balance.
Okay, so I'm going to level us up a little bit. So we have the original one on the table. There's, I believe, I'm going to look at you to make sure I'm phrasing you correctly. There's a motion to amend this resolution by amending this budget to have account line 0548 2020, which is essentially the fire station borrowing, to go from 12.5 to 14, and also the associated account line 05 52 3170 to go from 8.125 to 9.1.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second to that? Second by Mr. Barnes. Discussion. Discussion on the amendment. Comments? Okay. Oh, okay.
Well, I'll throw it out there again. I mean, this is essentially the mechanism to get us up to 14, as we saw and we discussed for the last hour or so in the committee of the whole. That's the number that we need if we're going to build this thing, have a contingency, and not come back to council.
Other comments, questions?
And then if we do come back, it's going to be relative to those addendum items that are on the wish list if the budget allows, correct? If I understand it correctly?
Yeah, the intention is to bring those to finance. Because it, right, the, what are those called? Alternates, thank you. I keep wanting to say addendums. Yes. Others, Ms. Davis.
So let me highlight something you said, Alder Lampy, not come back to council. 14? That's it?
I'm not sure if that's a question.
The intention is
Is that
certainly to go
rhetorical?
to 14. My attraction to that particular figure is that, basically, if I look at the numbers, that essentially increases our buffer, our contingency, as highlighted on that memo, which basically shows that six-figure line underneath at the bottom line, as opposed to sort of skating by at a number of, let's say, 13.5.
I get that. Yep. So I think what I'm saying is, from my perspective, this is it. This is,
Can you see me shaking my head, or did she freeze? She froze, okay. You froze there, Ms. Davis, but as long as you said, from my perspective, this is it, that's what we heard.
yeah. 14 million, this is it.
Other comments?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
my experience is if you give me 14 million, I'll spend it. So I agree with Ms. Davis, we can't exceed 14 million.
Mr. Blinky?
I just want to also echo that 14 is the ceiling.
Others? Mr. Lampy?
I might as well acknowledge that, yes. I would definitely would treat that as a finite ceiling. I had a little bit of experience with another project in town, and we definitely had some hard caps placed on us in terms of how high we could possibly go, and completely understand the concern and the need to stay underneath that figure.
Anybody else on the amendment? Okay, so we're gonna I'm gonna have Megan take the roll. So this is a motion to adjust the dollar value of the station. That's all we're doing at this point, from 12.5 to 14, and the associated account line that was previously articulated. Are we all kosher on that? Megan?
Lampy.
Aye.
Board.
Aye.
Aye. Bartz.
Aye.
Bartz. Aye. Blanky.
Aye.
Blanky. Aye. Smith.
No.
No. Schmid. Schmid. Aye. Wetzel. Wetzel.
Aye.
Moldenhauer.
No.
Davis.
Aye.
Motion passed, 7-2.
Okay, so we're now at an amended version of Resolution 9553. Other questions on Fund 5? So Megan's going to take the roll in just a moment. You're voting yes or no on the amended version of Resolution 9553, which is the budget for Fund 5. Megan?
Lampy.
Aye.
Board. Bartz.
Aye.
Blanky.
Aye.
Blanky. Aye. Smith.
No.
Smith. No. Schmid.
Aye.
Schmid. Aye. Wetzel. Wetzel.
Aye.
Moldenhauer. Moldenhauer. Davis. Davis.
Aye.
Motion passed, 7-2.
All right. Thank you. That's a huge move for this community. And I know that there was a lot of careful deliberation that went into that by everyone. So I appreciate that very much. Let's move to Exhibit 9554. This is a resolution to approve the 2024 EMS contract with the town of Milford. This is here for me and finance.
9554.
Thank you, Mr. Blanky. Second by Mr. Board. Comments or questions on this one for the chief? All right. With no comments or questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, let's go to our next. This is Exhibit 9555. This is a resolution to accept the public improvements for Hep Heights Phase 3 subdivision here in the city. This is here from me and the Plan Commission.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Board, second by Mr. Blanky. Questions, comments? Andrew's online just in case. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, let's go to Exhibit 9556. This is the resolution to accept the public improvements for Grandview Heights, edition number 7, again here in the city, and again from the Plan Commission. Mr.
Move to
Bartz?
approve 9556.
Motion by Mr. Bartz,
Second.
Second by Mr. Blanky. Questions from anybody on this one? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, next is Exhibit 9557. This is a resolution to approve the water quality trade protocol and approval methods for Mr. Wetzel and Public Works. Motion by Mr. Wetzel. Second by Mr. Bartz. Questions on this one? Comments? Mr. Schmid. Maureen, can you give us? There she is. Maureen, can you give us a high level? Or
Actually, Andrew, did you want to field this?
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see Andrew was still there. Anyone from engineering want to tackle this one?
Yeah, I can speak to this. We have Dave Hoffman from Dodge County, or Jefferson County, rather, entering the room with our stormwater team online as well. So I can give a bit of history on this water quality trading topic. And Maureen, if I get any of my dates wrong, feel free to jump in. In 2014, the city performed a water quality master plan and identified water quality trading as the most cost-effective, flexible manner to meet our total maximum daily load goals in the stormwater program that were implemented by the DNR a couple of years prior. In 2017, the Common Council approved the water quality trading method for meeting those goals. Earlier this year, the city, via a resolution approved by Common Council, had an agreement with Jefferson County to implement this program on the city's behalf. And essentially, we will be putting practices in farm fields to get pollutant credits that we can then apply towards our TMDL at a much lower rate than would be constructing urban practices within the city limits. The resolution before the council tonight memorializes the way in which staff would work together with the county and report back to the Public Works Commission.
Any other questions? Is that good? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, next is Exhibit 9558. This is a resolution to amend the formation of the citywide bike and ped path plan task force, again from Mr. Wetzel and Public Works. Oh, no fancy hand wave this time. Yes, motion by Mr. Board, second by Mr. Wetzel. Comments and questions from anyone on this one? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, our next two are the same, just for different counties. The first is Exhibit 9559. This is a resolution to authorize a joint powers agreement for the county 911 emergency system with Jefferson County. This is here for me. Yep. Thank you. Motion by Mr. Bartz, second by Mr. Blanky. Comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, next is Exhibit 9560. This is a resolution to authorize the joint powers agreement with Dodge County.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Moldenhauer, second by Mr. Schmid. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. We are at the point where we have another opportunity from comments from citizens present. Geraldine, yep.
Okay, I just have a brief comment about Water Street that you closed it, and I want it open again. Your regulations state all festivals only are open for 4 days, and it's been open. The Water Street has been closed for more than 4 days already, and I think I want it open now. And I use that street. I've paid for it with my taxes. I want it open. So, when are you going to open it again?
I'll chat with you after the meeting.
All right.
Anyone else that would like to comment? Anyone remotely? All right. With that, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Moldenhauer, second by Mr. Schmid. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving. Go chat with her quick.